I don't know what you might be going through, or I don't know how many priests or pastors you've walked to, but I understand when you go for help and it's not available or things don't work. That I understand it because I have been there. And then one you had to pay 2,000 shillings and another one you had to pay 5,000 shillings. And I want to tell you that on that day I was so broke that I couldn't even afford 2,000 shillings. I had 1,000 shillings with me, some very rotten old piece of 1,000 Ugandan shillings. It's all I had left on me. Hi, welcome. This is a place where together we walk through life after the death of a loved one. I am Theodora, and today I'll be sharing on seeking God for healing. I'll be sharing my spiritual journey and how it helped me overcome grief, how it helped me walk through grief and overcome it. I was born and raised Catholic, but my faith was greatly tested at the time when I was buried deep in grief. At the time when grief had greatly had roots in me and I was experiencing its effects on me, both on my health, mentally, and in many ways. I had heard and been told, and I knew, I had the information that God knows you, God loves you, He'll never forsake you, He'll be there for you. Jesus is there. He died for your sins. He'll be there in times of need or trouble. He'll always be there. But at the time when I was deeply buried in grief, I questioned this. Not out of, I don't know how I can say, but I questioned it out of the pain that I was going through, and it felt like God was too far from me and that He was not there to intervene in my situation. And this, because I also did not understand what this meant, and I did not understand what it meant to be a Christian or to be a Catholic. I did not understand so much about my faith then that it made me at one point stop praying and also stay away from the church for some time. But luckily enough, as I said, God's mercy is abundant. I was blessed by a friend called Nankumba Rose. I met her at the university at around that period when I was having this struggle in my faith. I met her and she slowly took me back to church. I still went to church, but I still had so many questions. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like God had abandoned me. That is how I can describe it, but it's a feeling that when you're going through pain, it's hard to describe certain things. So Rose helped me and we went back to church. But I still had so many questions. I still had so many things, and sometimes when I would ask, I wouldn't get satisfactory answers. So it took me to a point that I had to seek out information or seek God to understand what is going on. What does it mean to be a Catholic Christian? Why do we do what we do? So it took me to a place whereby I was seeking answers. I just wanted to know, why is it that my situation is not changing? I just wanted to know, God, what is it? That's how I can summarize it all. I'll try to make this story short. It's a long story. It's a story of a journey that started so many years, and even up to now I am still walking my journey of faith. I will summarize it in one of the stories or one of the many experiences that I went through. But this was one of the life-changing or pivotal experiences that I had. At one point in my life, I had moved from priest to priest, because that is what I had been told in my as a Catholic. If you need help, you go to a priest. So I had moved from priest to seek help, because I was in a dark place and I needed help and I needed answers. And so I moved from priest to priest. And there was this one day I made an appointment with one of the priests, because in the Catholic Church there are many priests with different gifts. There are those who can heal, there are those who can counsel, so many things. There are those who can cast out demons, many things. There are like many gifted priests. So I made an appointment with one of them, and I had to travel to a certain village to meet that priest. It was a long distance, but I had just some money that would just take me there, and somehow I just had little money. It wasn't much. It would take me, and I did not know possibly how to get back. I just had some little money, so I went there. And on reaching there, I found actually people were leaving, were going to another place. I asked what was going on. Then they said, no, there will not be mass here, but there will be mass in the next village. Then I said that I had an appointment with Father, but he is not. But now that the mass is not here, what next? Then the people who were there, or the caretakers who were there, said mass is going to be in the next village. So that's where everyone else is going. There were many of us, but I think 3 of us, because we really, like, when you're troubled and you know that this is the place you're like your last hope, where you're coming to get help. So say, no, let's go to that next village. We walked there, and only to realize Father was not there. Father had an emergency, and he had to travel like very early in the morning. But the caretakers the other side were not kind enough to tell us, And then there were other people who were offering help. They are offering counseling, and I don't know the other thing they were saying. I don't remember the other one, but there were 2 people. And then one you had to pay 2,000 shillings, and another one you had to pay 5,000 shillings. And I want to tell you that on that day, I was so broke that I couldn't even afford 2,000 shillings. I had 1,000 shillings with me, some very rotten old piece of 1,000 Ugandan shillings. It's all I had left on me. I was so heartbroken. I was so heartbroken that I'd moved so far to come and seek help, and there was nothing. I was so broken. I was pained. But I remember I said a prayer, and after saying a prayer, I walked back to the main road. Was a distance, and I walked back to the main road. It was a long distance, but as I was leaving, I said, God, I came for help, but I'm going back with none. I came for help, but I'm going back with nothing. I kept telling myself that I was so pained that I did not cry, but I could say that my soul was grieved. Why do I say that? After you have cried for a long time, you get that, I don't know how to describe it, but maybe I can express it, like get something like babies when they overcry. There's that thing that they make, but it happens to adults as well. Like that happened to me several times. Every time I said, God, I came for help, but I'm going back for none. And my eyes felt like I had cried for so long. It just felt like I had cried and cried and cried, but in actual sense, I hadn't cried. So I walked back to the main road. At that point, from where I was, the 1,000 couldn't take me back to where I needed to go. So I was there. I walked a distance when I was at the main road, just wondering how I would get back. And some old border that was really struggling came from nowhere and asked for 1,000 to take me to wherever I was going. And I felt relieved, but I was still so broken that was all I had in my mind. And I was taken to my destination. I paid and went back. I was so broken. I was so lost. I don't know what you might be going through, or I don't know how many priests or pastors you've walked to, but I understand when you go for help and it's not available or things don't work. That I understand it because I have been there. So, cutting the long story short, one day there was a retreat at Sacred Heart Church, my home parish, and I went for that retreat. And during that retreat, there was also an option to see priests, gifted priests who can counsel you, help you, speak to you, and what. So there was one who came, but that day I saw the queue and I was still battling with past experiences of going and not being helped. I saw the queue was long. I didn't bother to join the queue, but I stood at a distance. And as I was standing, there was a nurse. I don't remember her name, but there was a nurse. And I stood next to her. It was just a couple of minutes before Mass would begin. Like after the retreat, there's always Mass, and then there's deliverance during the Mass. So it was just a few minutes to Mass, and there were so many people who still wanted to see the priest. So he requested that they come and kneel, and he prayed over them. And then as he was praying over them, this nurse said that I was like those people one time. Whenever I was troubled, I went to the priest. I looked for the priest. But one day I was faced with a very hard challenge. I was alone. And there was no priest. I was alone in my house. In the middle of the night. And I couldn't get access to any priest because it's in the night. And I had to pray for myself. That changed my life. That gave me like a mindset change, because she further on said that just like those priests, each one of us is blessed by God at baptism. We get those special gifts at baptism. And like those priests, you too can pray and God hears your prayers. So she said, these days I pray for myself. It doesn't mean that the shepherds of the church, priests, pastors, are not important. They are very important in shepherding and guiding us. But the point that I got from her is it is important to seek to know God for yourself, to be able to stand in for yourself if no one else is there, that you can be able to stand for yourself. In my spiritual journey, it has been a bump, but I'm trying to summarize it. I can summarize it by that story, but I went through so many things in between. So after listening to this lady's talk, or rather I could say that it brought me to the realization that I need to seek to know God personally, to seek to know and to have a relationship with God, to know who is God, just to get to know Him.